welcome back to the New Haven Willoughby line. This is the November update. I've got a few little things to show you, so stick around. So this is the western edge of the Willoughby New Haven line, headed pretty much towards Boston area. And this structure is the latest one that I've been working on. I've been working on a lot of the little details, the stairs, the roof I've been working on. And I wanted to show you one more time how valuable using canopy glue is. As you can see, there's tons of windows on this structure, and I've kind of had an idea of how I wanted to place it, but not until I actually kind of got it established, built four walls together and the roof together, that I started to kind of play with how things were going to be lined up. And I have moved and adjusted and scratch built a bunch of little features on here, and the canopy glue has been invaluable because I'm allowed to, or it enables me to, remove those brick sections that cover up the windows and add back in doors or windows, or vice versa, take the doors or windows out and put the brick sections back in. So it allows for adjustment after things are kind of established. They just kind of pop out with a little bit of wiggle. I use an X-Acto blade and they pop right out. So taking a closer look at this section that's facing front, I have decided to put a door back in here and make this kind of an abandoned loading dock, as though this track had shifted at one point. I'm not really sure. I may put abandoned rails here, kind of like I did for my programming track. I'm still kind of undecided on that, but initially I had put a brick section in this area here as well, and then I decided, no, I actually want to put the loading dock in there. On the other side, I can show you, is where it's track accessible to the far track. So that's how you access that building track side. And then on the near side here is going to be another industry. And this morning I just started to play around with how a road would come in and across. I kind of want some residential or commercial, small commercial buildings in this section here along the track. So the double main line kind of runs behind those buildings and they're road accessible. So I'm still playing around with the layout of this area, but for the most part I've kind of got the doors and windows kind of set where I want them to be. I put the kind of an access door on the side of the building here, right over the box car, and then it's accessible to the road with a little sidewalk there or pathway. And let me show you the front of the back of the building, which is really the track side section. So I'm going to spin things around and show you what I did there. So this is the track side of the building that you'll probably never see. I didn't use the loading docks that came with this kit. I used the loading docks from a different kit and put that on there. I had to raise it up a little bit so that it met the level of the doors. I'm still working on painting it. I cut the doors in half so that they could open, and you can't see it from here, but there's a floor on the inside of each section. I'll probably make little modules or something that fit in there so that there's kind of an interior. I still need to put in floors for the building so it's all open in there, so I need to work on that. And this section, again, you'll probably never really see it, but I want to complete it as best I can. And again, the canopy glue has been invaluable. I'm not sure if I moved any of these sections out, but I didn't want windows just across the whole thing. I wanted to make it look like it had been adjusted and modified over the years for different purposes, so I didn't want all open windows. So that's the trackside section of the building, and I'm pretty pleased with how it came out. I used my regular oil paint on top of spray rattle can primer, which was used as the mortar, and then the oil paint was brushed on top for the brick. And I need to do some more weathering. I weathered the windows with my latest mixture of alcohol and Indie ink. I still need to do some more. I'm undecided as to whether I want to dull coat it and then add powder, or powder and then dull coat, but I will probably get to that later this weekend. The next little bit on this update is rather sad. I destroyed my little 44 tonner. It's an older one, so it's got the two motors that run opposite polarity, and I was trying to solder, I forget, it had kind of been, I wasn't sure if I had broken gears or what, so I took it apart and was adjusting it, cleaning the wheels and so forth. And when I hooked up the decoder again, I am not using, I'm embarrassed to show the soldering iron that I'm using, and the soldering iron is just not the right one to use for this kind of project, and I destroyed one of the motors. So this guy is completely unrunnable at this point. I'm going to get another one at some point, hopefully soon, and just swap the shell out with this shell, because this paint scheme is the one that I prefer over the regular black and the more McGinnis style. So I need to replace this. I feel terrible, but I'm going to replace it with a single motor one, and I'm hoping I can save the decoder that I was using. Hopefully I didn't damage it. One of the power leads on it is cut so short, it's right down to the decoder, so I'm hoping I can salvage it. If not, I'll just get another decoder. But lesson learned, make sure you've got the right tools for the job, otherwise you can do damage. Essentially, I melted part of the top, what do you call it, the brush off it. So I melted the part of the motor that holds the brush on. It just came right off. It was just literally a hot mess. So this little guy's out of commission, but he sits on my programming track, and it makes for a nice scene with the oil and the tank cars in front. So it's just for scenery at this point. I still love the shell. I'm going to replace the whole engine locomotive at some point and just save this shell. Probably put the shell that I get on eBay, because I'll probably going to just get the best running one that I can find for the best price, and then just swap the shells out. So that's this bit of sad news. Unfortunately, it didn't run that well to begin with, so no great loss, but again, I can't believe that I actually destroyed an entire locomotive as badly as I did. So that's that sad news. So the last little bit that I wanted to show you on this update is I have my main control panel here, which is not as established and perfect as I would like it, but that's a story for another day. But coming over here in the back, when I come and work this section back here, which is rather inconvenient and poor design, and again, another story for another day. But when I want to work these industries during an op session, I have these 4 turnouts here. I've got the one that leads back to the yard here, the main line that leads to the yard, and then this switch that leads to these 2 industries, and the switch that divides into, and then this double track turnout. So I actually wired them up so I have an auxiliary switch for each turnout. So each of these controls the turnouts over in this section, so when I'm back here, I don't have to reach under and fiddle around and try to figure out where the actual, if I go under here, where the actual turnout is. It's, I'm not sure if you can see, but there's 2x4s under here. They're kind of hard to access, and it's kind of a pain. So now I can just fiddle around here in the front underneath here and find the correct switch for the turnout. I tried to do it in such a way that it made sense. The mainline one is the first one, so I just reached to find the farthest left one, and it's this one here. The next one leads you into the industrial area. The next one is, again, in order, so it controls which industry you go to, and then the last one on the right controls which double track which track you go to for the Canamit. So that's it. That took me about an hour to wire those up. All of these turnouts are still accessible on the main panel, but it just makes it cleaner and easier to access these turnouts here, so I don't have to worry about undoing any wires reaching under, and it just makes things a little bit more operational. So that's that little bit. Well, that wraps up this episode, the November update of the Willoughby New Haven line. Thanks for sticking around. Hopefully for December, I will have some new things to show you. There's some LEDs on locomotives that I want to adjust. They don't come through as cleanly as they should. They're probably not in the correct spot, so that's one little project I've got underway, and hopefully I have the section over here a little bit more figured out. Still trying to figure a couple things out. Need to get some kits and things. I think scratch build some buildings in that section, so there's still a lot of work to be done on that, but it's starting to shape up, so I'm pretty pleased with how that's coming out. And that's kind of the best part of that. Well, there's a lot of best, but I mean, this hobby's great, so there are no bad parts, except when you kill a little 44 tonner using the wrong soldering iron, which is just terrible. So that's probably on the old Christmas list, is getting a halfway decent soldering iron to replace the halfway decent one that I had. And now I've been using one that my dad used when he got me into this hobby back in 1986. So again, I'm not going to show you the soldering iron that I used. I actually have used it successfully for a couple of things. One thing I had to do was I needed some feeders on this section here. I think this little track here, I needed a couple of feeders on, and I forget, or maybe it was this one here, I forget. But I used it for those and it works, but yeah, it's embarrassing. So have a great November. Thanks for sticking around, and we'll catch you next month.